Shalom, Yasha. First and foremost, I'd like to give all glory, honor, and infinite praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Chadash, double honors to beloved elders and the apostles at Great Millstone that taught me this truth. While peace and salutations to all you hopefully like talking about. They're laboring, they're out there risking your lives and your freedom, your reputation, your family, and everything that we know and see and hold dearly in this so-called flesh and earth to put on the line to go out there and constantly be pushing this truth, because to speak out against the evil and to speak the truth in a nation ruled by the wicked is a revolutionary act. So everything that you love is being put on the line because you are speaking this truth out of the Bible. You're representing Yahweh Shai, like scriptures say, the servant is not greater than the master. You know, if the world hated him and persecuted him, roughly paraphrasing, the gist of the scripture, which I'm going to go to it right now. The world hated me. This is John 15:18. If the world hate you, ye know that it hated me before it hated you. And we know everything that Yahweh Shai went through, speaking out against these devils. We're going to have to go through, through the hour of temptation, and there's no escaping it. And one of the best examples is these lico hats out there running wild, the rats running out of the caves because there's a flood happening, and they're fleeing to different parts of Europe. I don't know if brothers have seen the videos of the traffic that was going out of Israel. I don't know if it's still going out right now. I'm sure it is, if they haven't shut down the airspace. But this is just a testament to show you how hectic the times are getting. And over there in Dubai, this is the article that caught my attention, that gave me the inspiration to do this lesson. This is no amount of money can get you a flight out of Dubai right now, or Doha, or Bahrain, or Kuwait, the wealthiest cities on the planet, and still there's no way leaving you out, which automatically made me think of James 5:1. This is, go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. And this is a part of the miseries, the war, being constantly under the threat of bombardment of these missiles, these drones, these hypersonics. Now that there's videos being circulated along online that are going into that Iran is using these hypersonics, and it's being recorded that how fast they're hitting, and that's part of the miseries, so-called little hats running around trying to cram into these shelters. IDF soldiers just cowering away, not being able to do a damn thing, waiting for a missile to hit them. And that's exactly what's going to happen when ultimately the nuclear missiles start flying. And we know that that World War III and the nuclear missiles are not going to fly until the New World Order, seems to be already started to be established. And what I mean by that is the mark of the beast being implemented worldwide, and the chaos being mainly focused on those who do not and those who take the charagma, versus those who are with society and against society, those who are going to be made public enemy number one, anti systemic people, the people that are against the system. This is James 5:2. Your riches are corrupted and your garments are moth eaten, which meaning it's corroded, it's degraded. Even though these people have gained themselves great riches, they are not able to save or deliver themselves or get a flight out. Verse 3, your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire. Ye have heaped treasures together for the last days. And this is going into, those that establish themselves in this world. This is not those just fleeing from the land of Israel right now. This applies to all those people that have thought that siding with Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, his power structure, his system is better than to be humble and to suffer as a believer and follower of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, rather than to gain this world for a moment. This is the scripture chose to suffer. What is it? This is Hebrews 11:24. By faith, Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, because he married Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. It says God here, but you could say Yahweh, the people of Yahweh, than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season, esteeming the reproach, which means to be hated on, of Hamashiach greater riches than the treasures in Egypt. For he had a respect unto the recompense of the reward. And the payback and the reward is ultimately Israel being put on top by Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, because of what Yahushai did on the cross. And to be hated for believing what we believe is better than to be suffering with these people, thinking that having a plot of land, being extradited, it's beautiful, because we were actually talking about this at camp, that if you do a crime against children in the most odious of ways, and you get extradited to Israel, you can't be or if you flee to Israel, you cannot be extradited back to the United States or whatever country that you did those atrocities and in those most odious works towards whatever population. You cannot be tried for that. So again, these people that thought that they were in a good case being in so-called, the Holy Land, which is unholy land right now, but eventually it will be made holy once that land is cleansed by the fire. And it's not talking about a couple missiles dropping on the land over there right now. No, that land is going to be completely reshaped. Just like the world is going to be reshaped, the land of Israel is going to be reshaped. And this is just one of the many signs that the scriptures are correct, that these world, these world events are only going to increase. We have what's going on between Afghanistan and Pakistan, which is the Taliban versus the Pakistanis. China and India. You have China and Taiwan. You have China versus Babylon the Great, and them giving certain technologies to Iran. And this is only going to escalate. Don't think that things are only going to, calm down. They shut down the Strait of Hormuz, which is going to affect gas prices and the different currencies around the world economies. So don't think that you're going to be able to scoop by this thing easily. So I'm just going to say, continuing in this Hebrews 11, that this is a thing of faith. And it is by faith that Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai is going to deliver those that believe in him. Ultimately that being only the elect. This is Hebrews 11:27. By faith he forsook Egypt, and we're forsaking the land that we live in right now. The life Egypt just means bondage. Whatever bondage the Israelites are in worldwide at the four corners, they're forsaking it and choosing to suffer and follow Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. And you're going to understand that means more than just saying it. When this man makes the charagma or the MOT to the B, that mark of the beast, mandatory for you to be a part of society by being able to drive, buy groceries, etc. Just live. Continuing, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is invisible. And we have faith seeing him who is invisible. You can't see something that's invisible. That means you're having faith. It says not fearing the wrath of the king. We're not fearing what Esau, Edom is going to be able to do to us by persecute us, say all types of lies on us, say that we're domestic terrorists, whatever, that we're anti-American, we're the worst thing possible. We're public enemy number one because we don't want to get a device implanted underneath our skin, you know. So continuing Hebrews 11 and 28, through faith he kept the Passover and the sprinkling of blood, lest he that destroyeth the firstborn should touch them. And that's the spirit, because we're into March, the month of Aviv now, which is the new year technically, and we're going to soon be participating in another Passover. Lord willing, this be the last Passover we have to do, in this captivity. And it's going to be a miraculous sign, because it just so happens that as well as a blood moon is going to fall on this month less than 2 weeks away from the Passover. So these are signs in the heavens that are happening right now. Continuing, verse 29, by faith they passed through the Red Sea as by dry land, which the Egyptians assaying to do were drowned. So the Egyptians tried crossing the same way, and they got drowned by the waters. They got overwhelmed. But the Israelites passed through on dry land. That's some miracles, and that's the same miracles that we're going to expect getting delivered in these last days. Which makes me think of the scriptures, Jeremiah 16 and right around the 15th verse. The 14th verse. This is Jeremiah 16 and 14. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord Yahweh, that it shall no more be said, the Lord Yahweh liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, as the account that I was reading, as the Israelites passing through dry land, was a miraculous work. The miracles that are going to be happening here in Babylon the Great are going to far surpass those of what happened in Egypt, because a lot of what happened in Egypt was very symbolic, but as well as very miraculous for us to be able to take it out. And I mean symbolic by the angel of death going to Egypt, killing the firstborn. The blood getting put on the lamp, the head posts of the doors, which is representing Yahweh Shai, the blood that he shed for us. But the amount of miracles that's going to happen here in Babylon the Great, as well as the four corners of the world, as it means to the deliverance of the elect, is going to be by the way of miracles. Verse 15, but the Lord Yahweh liveth, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north, and from all the lands whither he had driven them. And I will bring them again into their land that I gave unto their fathers. That's ultimately New Jerusalem coming down, and taking the world. Like Brightburn, take the world. If anybody has seen the movie Brightburn, one message that was replaying constantly in his head that caused him to get busy was, to take the world. That's ultimately what New Jerusalem and the elect are going to do when they come down, establishing the kingdom of heaven here on earth. So understand and know that there's no fleeing the wrath of Yahweh Bashim Yahshai, but the elect are going to be delivered. And it's good news for us. And like I always say, it is not our kingdom that's falling, it is their kingdom that is falling. Because for our kingdom to come, theirs must fall. There can only be one king of the hill, and that is Yahweh Yahweh Shai. King David the 12, as well as the elect in their order. So Lord willing that this lesson was edifying unto the elect. Till next time, I would like to give all glory, honor, and infinite praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Chachadash, and double honors to beloved elders and the apostles of Great Millstone that taught me this truth. While peace and salutations to all you hopeful Lektakim out there laboring, that are pushing this word in truth and in sincerity. Till next time, Lord willing, Shalom.